Hot Seat with yours truly, Joanne Lewis. I'm interviewing another candidate. This time around, it's number 13 on the National Alliance slate. I'm talking about Jimmy Challenger. Jimmy, welcome.
Thank you, Joanne. It's a pleasure to be here.
First of all, let the people out there know, who is Jimmy Challenger?
Well, I think what's most important to know about Jimmy Challenger is that Jimmy Challenger is a family man. And being a family man, a father of two, married, one household, it means that as a private individual, first and foremost, of this country, I am feeling the pinch of the challenges that we've been facing over the past, let's say, 10 years or so with the change in the economic situation worldwide. And I have also experienced what the National Alliance government over the past 9 months has been doing to improve our standard of living.
I'm looking at it from a standpoint of we have so many different parties on the island contesting in the September 26th election. Why the National Alliance? I mean, you said it briefly just now, over the last 9 months, what you've seen, but I don't believe it's just over 9 months you've seen growth and you decided you're going to jump in the ring. I'm sure you've been thinking about politics for a long time.
That is correct. From the age of 12, I was following politics. My first vote cast was a vote of protest, so to speak. Not protest in the sense that the current administration at that time was not doing anything, but rather a protest for change, just to see someone different in the administration. So at the age of 18, I had voted for the then St. Martin Patriotic Alliance, which is the forefather, so to speak, of the National Alliance, simply for wanting that change. And over the years now, becoming a family man, a former banker, insurance salesperson, and now entering into my own business arena, I've come to realize that something more has to be done, something greater, that Jimmy Challenger should play a bigger role in this society. And based on the record, the clean record of the National Alliance, the constant need to do things the right way, and because I believe in those principles, then I chose the National Alliance as the way and the medium to use to bring that energy into the party, and as such, hopefully be elected as one of the members of Parliament come September 26th.
Jimmy, we are looking at 156 candidates. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
What makes Jimmy Challenger different from the other 155 candidates?
Well, I'll say it this way. To be a member of Parliament, one, in my opinion, has to have a general overview of everything that goes on in society. True. Everything. From my years at the St. Martin Academy High School, I had joined the Junior Kiwanis, which is a youth wing version of the Kiwanis Club that was established at that time. And in there, I started to do community work, barbecues, bake sales, car wash, and all those little things that back then used to mean something before different type of sponsorships and shows were being done like today. From there, I moved on, went to college in the Netherlands, experienced the Dutch way of life. It was a good experience knowing that you're part of a kingdom and you get to see what the mother country, so to speak, is like, to have a better understanding of what has been happening to St. Martin, the former Netherlands, Antilles, and so forth. And then returning home, the first thing I looked for was for the Kiwanis Club, and unfortunately it was not there. So I eventually joined the Lions International, the Lions movement. From there, in my career, I explored into the banking, marketing, insurance, back into banking, And coming full circle, when you're dealing with day-to-day finances of people, that you are the core of their family decision. You are the core of their business decision. You are the core of the food that they put on their respective tables. And it is your responsibility to do your utmost best for those in the best interest of the country, in the best interest of the individual and their family. So that entire experience and process has led me to have a general understanding from a community perspective, from a banking perspective, from a risk and insurance perspective, and the marketing in itself, which is, very, very much fun, and you have to assist in that role in community projects. So I have a broad-based knowledge of an experience of the various aspects that goes on in our community, and I think that would be a good asset for the next Parliament of St. Martin.
Jimmy, what's your hot topic? What are your burning issues?
The first one that hits home very, very hard. After spending much time with the Chamber of Commerce, there have been some business development programs there. There's been business plan competitions and things that, as a banker and as a private citizen, I have assisted in as a judge, as jury, so like they say, both sides of the aisle and assisting. And I realized something very important. We have many youngsters out there that are interested in becoming entrepreneurs. And with my banking background and insurance, which is essential to get the business community up and running, and understanding that we're in a tourism sector that requires a rethinking of how we finance things, how we market ourselves, and how we put ourselves out there. One of my primary focuses would be the business development aspect. How can we revitalize Front Street and Back Street, that we move away from simply having jewelry stores, that we move away from simply having electronic stores or clothing stores. Mm-hmm. No offense to those are needed. Right. Those are part of, we need that.
Part of the industry.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think we need to look at diversification of what is going on in Phillipsburg, what is going on in Coal Bay and Simpson Bay. As you know, Coal Bay has turned into a more semi-industry kind of industrial area. Yeah. And when we look at KB, we have to try and balance off and say, okay, we already have GEBE there. Mm-hmm. How much impact has GEBE had on the environment? So in terms of business, what can you develop there that is not going to further put that community into feeling like neglected or too much industry? So I think in a nutshell, my focus then, my first focus would be to gather information, research, where are we in terms of business, where do we want to grow in terms of business, and what type of legislation is required to make sure that those new businesses that we introduce can survive with a strong foundation within the first and 3 years of development.
It's your first time being into the elections. Have you started campaigning?
I think I've been campaigning all my life.
Okay.
In the sense that you have to care. You have to have a certain passion. And I know that there's many politicians out there that are selling that. You know, I care about the country, and I mean this, and I mean that, and I mean well. But I truly, sincerely believe that everyone, in every job that they do in their country, whether they are a school teacher, garbage collection, bus driver, nurse, doctor, whatever the job is, that you have to put country first. You right. don't have to be a politician or a parliamentarian to put country first. I think over the last 20 years or so, the job of a politician, if a government representative, has been tarnished mm-hmm. by people who claim to be good for society, and then they go in and they do things that is improper, injustice, and we need to change that image. And I believe that I'm able to do that because I've always been doing the right thing wherever I have been. So that would be my overall answer to you on that.
Okay. You want to serve. You want to serve your country. If you get an opportunity to serve your country, what is one of the first things that you would want to do when you get in there?
Well, we spoke earlier about the business community, which is core. So legislation would have to be passed to make sure that those businesses can survive within the first 3 years. That's one. And then you have to look at it from the what really affects a family. One of the things is that the tax system, and I know many politicians have said, or advices that I've gotten, oh gosh, stay away from the tax. That doesn't get you votes. That doesn't get you elected. It's something very difficult to change. You have to revamp and so on and so on. But if you have more money in your hand at the end of the day, if your paycheck can be more yours than that of the government, that means that you're able to spend more, and by you being able to spend more, the businesses also benefit from it. So there are certain options that we can bring to the table. One is the ever famous increase in the minimum wage. You know that the current minimum wage is below 2,000 guilders. It cannot
sustain a family. Yes,
exactly. So that would be one aspect. Then you can look at the business aspect of people who are starting their first business, and you give them a tax break. Usually you hear about a tax break for big investors that come in, whether it's that they're setting up a casino, or whether it's a big hotel and they get a 10-year break. But we can also look at our small mom and pop shops that require that break, and it helps the economy, and they too would end up employing 1 or 2 people, even if it's their own family members that are being sustained from that family business. At the end of the day, you're expanding the job market. Yeah, there are more people occupied with gainful employment and having a sense of pride when they get up in the morning that they have somewhere to go and they're investing into something. As a result of having more money in your pocket, it also means that you're able to save more. You're also able to borrow more from banks when needed. Banks nowadays, they want you to have X amount of money, and you ask yourself, where you're going to get this from. But if you're able to put certain mechanisms in place in terms of legislation that allow people to have more money in their pocket, that allow them to walk into a bank with pride, with some kind of savings, then you are allowing them opportunities to take loans, to purchase their home, to start a business, to put a little bit on the side for retirement. And it also serves as a supplement then for your retirement planning. So you don't only depend on the old age pension, but you can have it as an extra pillar. So you have the old age pension, you have a pension plan, hopefully via your employer or your own business with your NV that you set up a company pension plan. And on top of that, you can enter into other savings elements to encompass a whole new way in which we receive money, spend our money, and manage our resources on the whole as a community.
If you're given an opportunity to be Prime Minister for one day, what would you do?
Well, first of all, that question is difficult to answer. I had the privilege of spending some time with the current Prime Minister, Prime Minister William Marlin, and I am not ready for that.
No.
And no, from what I have seen, the challenges that he faces, the sacrifices that his family has to go through,
yeah.
and the unfortunate moments when people don't realize what the job encompasses. I would not want to be in his shoes, at least not in this early stage of my political career. But if I were Prime Minister for one day, then I would first and foremost tackle a long-standing problem, and that is, and it's a combined problem in education I don't think the current Minister of Education or the previous ones are necessarily to blame on what has been happening. And this is, I'm talking now about the Phillipsburg Jubilee Library, the St. Martin Museum, and a Culture and Arts Center. I know that these have been hot issues over the past 2 elections, but if it's one area that I would look into is how to give these 3 institutions more support. And it doesn't only have to be financial support. We always think of that first. But in terms of their planning, in terms of their collaboration with one another, with each of those 3 entities, they have been doing that already. But I think government needs to step in and tackle it. The Phillipsburg Jubilee Library, the current facilities are not suitable. The books and all the other inventory, important information that is there, I think that library needs to be formally recognized as the National Library of Country St. Martin. The museum itself has a wealth of historical artifacts and is a prime display of items and things that tourists could enjoy, so that we bring in and attract more tourists that are willing to pay. Tourists that comes off of cruise ships, they are essential. They are part of your entire tourism product and service that you offer. But when we talk about stay over tourism, these people need venues and you know, attractions to visit. And I believe that the museum can play a much bigger role in that. And when we look at the culture and arts in terms of keeping our youth occupied, and I don't want to hammer too much on the youth topic, because I believe the youth are already here.
Right.
We've been saying this for so long. I remember I was following politics from the age of 12, like I told you earlier. Well, now I am 39 years old. So I think the discussion on the youth needs to be more in terms of action rather than simply stating that we're going to help the youth.
Well, Jimmy, your resume is quite extensive. Now politics is going to be added to that. Are you going to stay in politics?
When I had to take a decision as to what I wanted to study in university, college level, my first choice was political science. And you know, if my parents are watching this program now, they would recall the how many you know, discussions we had in the house where they said politics does not feed your family.
Right.
People have to go and vote for you. How are you going to, you know, what if you don't get elected? How are you going to? And I think now, being married with 2 lovely daughters that I enjoy spending time so much with, here I go. So there's no right moment really to serve your country. You just got to get up and do it. And because it comes from the heart, if I'm elected into office, or I should say rather more positively, when elected into office, then I'm looking at a long-term career under the flagship of the National Alliance, with the opportunity to work with each and every MP on how we can better this country. We need to look at politics totally different. We need to remove those lines within the parliament itself. The parliament is a private body from the other, you know, the executive branch and the you know, the other wings of governance, if I could call it that. Mm-hmm. The parliament needs to get serious. We need serious people. We have a few from different political parties. We have a few that are competent, but we have 15 slots, and it is high time that the public, the political party is the medium that you use, or the vehicle via which one gets elected. I've always been saying that. But putting the party aside, and I know that I chose the right party, right, mind you, when whatever party, whatever one does as an
elected official,
right, one has to serve everybody once elected.
Mm-hmm.
And the public, in my view, what they need to learn is, okay, I am supporting National Alliance. Even within the National Alliance, and I say this with a heavy heart because we've produced a list that is wow, you know, simply
yes.
wow. Mm-hmm. But even within those 23 candidates, you have to make a conscious decision to choose one that is going to represent you. and not simply, go in and has to learn certain ropes. We all have to learn as we go, but I'm saying the more competent the MP, it's an easier strain even on the executive branch, because the parliament functions as a control mechanism, and in that capacity, if you have a body that controls the executive branch and they are less competent than the executive branch, how can you then control? So that's my rationale behind it, that the best thing is that people really go out there, and most definitely candidate number 13, candidate Jimmy Challenger, is more than ready to serve, has been waiting since the age of 12 to do this, and I am pleading out there humbly that candidate number 13 will be a future MP of Country St. Martin.
Well, Jimmy, that's a very good note to end on. Our time has come to an end. And of course, you are in the hot seat, and I am Joanne Lewis. See you next time.